you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. So yes, welcome again, Met. This is the first quarter TMC meeting for 2023. It's still January, though some of us may feel it's already June, since we've been rushing so much already this month. This is going to be an agenda that's going to be packed full, so we can't slow down too much as we go through it. We have some very interesting features here from Arizona Public Service and also from our electric transportation sector. So even though we are going to have to really keep rolling through this, we are always rushing. We have to be careful. Our safety moment today is stair safety. We really should watch out and not rush up and down the stairs as we normally do. First of all, let's make sure you put your phone away. Don't be looking at your phone as you're walking down the stairs. Make sure you have a hand available to hold on to the handrail. The weather outside is frightening still, and there can be ice on stairs, so it could be quite slippery there, and even in the house. Watch out, those fluffy, warm socks also can be very slippery on the stairs. And make sure you turn on the lights. Your kids might have left their Tonka trucks or something on the stairs, and that would be quite dangerous, falling down, tripping over those Tonka trucks or dolls.
Pues sí, decime que yo cómo voy a ganar con una persona que esté disponible o que la tenga en el centro de control, lo mismo.
I think we're
Pues si
gonna
tengo la gente que
have
llamo.
to click on mute here. All right, and it can be quite scary, especially if you're down in the Washington, D.C. area, especially. If you go and walk down those stairs, it could be quite fatal. I don't know if any of you have seen The Exorcist, but yes, stair safety is important. It can even lead to death. So with that, let's see how we're going to rush through this very packed 1 hour. Welcoming the new Mets is going to be Michael McCrae, Director of U.S. Accounts. Michael?
Thank you, Mary Angeles. And it's very ironic because just about 2 hours ago, I was walking up the stairs with my phone and stumbled and about lost my laptop. So very appropriate, kind of chuckling here a little bit. But welcome, everybody, and appreciate Mary Angeles and everybody who has been working to put this webcast together. Just want to take a quick opportunity to welcome a few of our new Mets since the last time we gathered a few months ago. So we have Lance Simpson from Hoosier. We also have Sarah Richards from New Braunfels Utilities, who's actually New Braunfels is a new member for EPRI this year. They've just joined in a couple of our programs, so definitely welcome them to the fold. We have Ryan Jones as well from OG&E, and Zeb Hart from LG&E KU, who's working with them. And then we have Jason Reesner, who's taken over the Met role recently at Tri-State, and finally Scott Hoagland from National Grid. Alice Hoagland. I'm not really sure where the name confusion came in there, but appreciate that, Mr. Tamani, in terms of picking up on that. So, but definitely welcome to all of you. I look forward to working with you, and this is a great opportunity for you to network with your peers and find some other Mets out there that you can reach out to learn about some best practices and the best ways of engaging with EPRI. So go ahead and turn it back over to you, Mary Angeles.
Thanks very much, Michael. And in fact, we have a new Met who will be speaking today, Andrew Tosin from Arizona Public Service. And actually, Andrew Tosin is going to be with Mark Hahn, also presenting on their new process for sustaining engagement at Arizona Public Service. Andrew is a Senior Energy Innovation Analyst at APS, and Mark Hahn is a Technology Assessment Manager. Andrew, welcome as new Met, and it is all yours to present your new and improved process at APS, and thank you so much for willing to share this with the rest of the Met community.
Well, thank you, Marie Angeles. Andrew, thanks for joining today. I'm Mark Hahn. I am the Technology Assessment Manager for Arizona Public Service. What I wanted to walk through real quick here with Andrew and present to the rest of you is the way we revamped our EPRI program at Arizona Public Service. Andrew took over as the Met here within the last year. And we decided that we needed to increase engagement in EPRI, prove more value to our executives, and get more involved in EPRI too, to get more value for us. We feel that it was really being underused, and we wanted to put ways in to drive usage for the EPRI engagement and to be able to measure the usage. You know, you can think you're doing a great job, but if you don't have the measurements in place, you don't know for sure. So some of the things we've done is the Met, which would be Andrew, will be planning and managing, conducting all meetings. The meetings that we'll have, we'll go through those in a little bit here, but we have quite frequent meetings with our advisors, sector leads, and executives. We created charters. The one thing we found was as people moved around, advisor roles changed, and they didn't know what their responsibilities were as an advisor or as a sector lead. So we actually wrote charters for the advisors and sector leads to tell them what their roles and responsibilities were, as well as our steering committee, which makes financial decisions on our EPRI spend, our SDF funds, and all of our different funded programs that we have. We also created an overarching charter for the EPRI program and its purpose and its function at APS. And then we wrote a charter for the Met. So Andrew is very clearly understands what his responsibilities are as a Met. You know, he came into the role and it was kind of like, I don't even know what to do. You know, a poor guy who just kind of, here's the fire hose, drink from it. So we put a charter together so that if Andrew moves up and on from position, it's very easy to sustain the program long term. The other thing that we did also is we put in a one-stop shop for all things EPRI. We'll talk about that a little bit later. In the interest of time, I won't show you our website we put together, but we actually put together a SharePoint website, the sharing and collaboration site for all of our APS 6,000 employees. And in the sharing and collaboration site, they can go there and they can get to our STEP program, which is our strategic technology evaluation program that we run with our team. You can get to any new industry news. You can get to any of the data that you need on the projects that we're doing. And the most important one, I think, is the EPRI link that we have. So when you click on the link, it actually takes you to our EPRI site. We'll have the EPRI calendar of events up there so that everybody can see at a glance what EPRI events are coming up for the next year. And we have it to where you can actually click directly through and get to the details on the event and enroll if you wish. We also have it to where we have the usage numbers for EPRI because we monitor every month the increase in, and Andrew will cover that a little bit more. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but Andrew, I'll leave that part for you. But we do measure the usage and the effectiveness of what we've done with the program. And just so you know the numbers, since we relaunched our program in September, our login rate has increased by 32%, and our downloads of papers have increased over 25% in just the last 3 months. So the usage is definitely being driven forward and being well received. We also have set up quarterly steering committees and executive meetings. So we have a dashboard that we give out to the executives every quarter. And then our SharePoint site, which you talked about, which has the training, every calendar event, our usage numbers, our advisor list, and our programs we pay for. Because a lot of times our engineers will come to us and go, Mark, I need information on XYZ. Where can you help me with that? I say, well, we happen to have this program from EPRI. Go talk to this advisor who's in charge of that program. They can walk you through the papers that they have and the information they have. They also will come to me and say, Mark, who's the advisor for this particular program? And we actually have that posted now. So they can go and see which PDU or which particular generation program we're part of and who that advisor is. And the advisor's responsibilities are to educate and help drive usage in their particular areas of expertise. So we've really pushed that kind of downward with an overarching Met control and oversight of that. And Andrew will talk a little bit about what he's done on a daily also and weekly, monthly to drive the usage. We've also set up a monthly newsletter and executive dashboard, which will be launched in February. And then we're also setting up a quarterly newsletter for the team that will go out to all 6,000 employees in the company of all the programs I had mentioned before with our technology evaluation, our EPRI programs, usage numbers, projects we're working on, all those types of things. It's all about presenting the awareness to everybody so that they understand that We have this incredibly valuable program, and all of you know, I mean, it's no secret, we spend a substantial amount of money with EPRI. And we want to make sure that we're getting the value and can prove to our executives, most importantly, that we're getting the value for that money spent, because the more value I can prove, the more money I can spend, and the better off we are in doing our job at APS. So I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. And Andrew, this is where I will turn it over to you, Dr. Thiessen.
Thank you, Mark. That was a really good job. I think we've covered this first point here pretty thoroughly. Mark talked a lot about our sharing and collaboration website. And so we have a lot of information out there for our APS employees to really try to communicate just what EPRI is capable of doing for helping them. I personally see the MET role as almost like an ambassador role. And so one of our engagement points for this year is going to be socializing EPRI through monthly report outs of what we've been doing with EPRI, and also talking to our stakeholders and finding out what their needs are and if there are projects or papers that can cover that. We've had further engagements with EPRI. We have the EPRI Day being planned for some point in Q2 of this year. And then we're hosting the Incubate Energy Lab Pitch Day on March 9th and 10th. So we're really trying to strengthen some of those in-person relationships as well. And then something we're introducing this year is our EPRI advisors for all of our programs. We're going to ask for a quarterly effectiveness report. So making sure that the programs that we're paying for are being utilized and that the information from those programs is being pulled and actually distributed among those groups. So that, program advisor will say, this is what I have been doing with, P94, let's say, for instance, and report out actually, what they've been getting out of EPRI and what they've been distributing to their group. So that's part of the engagement plan. And then next slide. Let's see. So the other half is, making sure that we are staying engaged on some of the stuff that we pay for. So we've been putting together, and we're going to start these monthly LCRI advisor meetings, because that's a very large project, right? We want to make sure that we're getting as much value out of that as possible. And then, as we've mentioned, the monthly advisor meeting. So all of our program advisors, we have a monthly meeting with them to discuss any concerns or wants. And then, like we previously mentioned, that quarterly advisor program, essentially report card, to just really make sure that we're getting value out of the programs that we're paying for. Also, we want to encourage increased cross-functional engagement. So this is where I see my role as, again, almost like an ambassador, going to different group meetings, different business units within our company, and actually getting people talking to each other about, what are the kind of advancements that EPRI is making that maybe we can fold that knowledge into our practices. And then finally, every time that we have a attendance at one of these larger gatherings, so the PDU and generation meetings that are in the winter and fall, we'll be holding report out meetings here in person, so that the program advisors that go can actually report out to us what they learned and what they feel, the most valuable aspects of what that program is developing are, and what things we should really look out for. So those are some of the ways that we're really trying to generate engagement with the whole company for this year. I think we have some questions in the chat. I don't know if one of the hosts wants to kind of read those, or.
I answered one of them already, Andrew. I saw one question out there, and I went ahead and typed the response.
Perfect.
So for those, so we're taking care of that. A couple things I just want to add on real quick is we've also kind of incorporated a few, I'll say, tricks or methods to helping with engagement. For example, the global innovation that they have with GIE, and we had a survey. And we were not getting good survey response. We had about 11 people that responded to the survey. So we went ahead and offered up $25 gift cards to 3 people that we drew in random for people who actually responded to the survey. we had it out for, I think, 2 months, got 11 people. In the last month, we're now up over 65 people.
Yep.
It's amazing what a $25 gift card will do for people.
Really
and then
simple way to
incentivize
engagement. Oh, I was just going to say, very simple ways to incentivize engagement, but that was a project that we really wanted good data for, and we needed more responses. So something it's relatively cheap for the value that you're going to get out of making sure you have good data for that project, right? So go ahead.
And we make sure that we socialize. I have, monthly meetings with stakeholders. So we have about 35 different stakeholder groups that my team touches, and we talk about EPRI and the numbers to all of the stakeholders, not just to the monthly advisor meeting. I also have report outs every month that I give to all of the engineering directors and managers, and I also focus on EPRI during that time. And we're getting very involved. So with the Incubator Energy Labs, I don't know if you guys are familiar with IEL from EPRI, most of you probably are. We're actually hosting the pitch day here on site in Phoenix at APS on March 9th and 10th of this year. So we're also getting very involved in good engagement at that level. And that also drives local engagement from our particular users that we have, because we have a group of people now that heard they're running the pitch day for IEL, and I'm probably going to have more people from APS that want to attend than I have room for sure. So we'll have to set up something virtual with them. And then we're also going to have Matt Connor, who's our rep at EPRI, to come out sometime this summer. A brave man, come out in July. But we're going to have an on-site EPRI day too, where we're going to bring EPRI on site and talk to our people about the EPRI engagement and the value you can get out of EPRI, and maybe do a little training while he's here as well. So we've really taken a holistic approach with a lot of different prongs to make sure that we do drive the usage and be able to prove the usage of what we're getting. The feedback we're getting from our participants so far, and I hate hearing it, but I hear it because I've been over the EPRI program for several years now. They go, oh my God, I never knew we even had this available. This is the best information ever. Yep. And stuff like that. So, but that's about what we have.
There's two more things I wanted to just add in real quick, Mark.
Sure.
So one that I forgot to mention when I was talking about increasing engagement. So again, I see this as almost like an ambassador role. One of my goals for this year is actually to develop sort of an introductory to EPRI presentation that I can then bring to different groups within different business units in our company, and actually give them a direct presentation on how they would go to EPRI and obtain the information that they're looking for, whether they're in a generation or a distribution or transmission side of things. And regardless of what their particular role is, that if they're interested in going out to find that information, here's how you sign up, here's how you search for it, things like that. So I wanted to mention that. And then the other thing, especially for new Mets, this will be good to hear. Mark mentioned the amount of time in the chat that I spend per week in the Met role, but something that I didn't anticipate before I took on this role is just how uneven it can be from week to week. So in certain times of the year, such as when you're trying to get programs funded towards the end and the beginning of the year, and during like event coordinations for like our readouts, right? Our report out meetings, time spent in the Met role for those weeks is going to be a lot heavier. And then certain other weeks of the year, it might be much lighter, where I just have a few maintenance meetings to continue to review projects and how they're progressing on a weekly basis, right? So one thing that I wish someone had told me when I took on the Met role was that that can go very up and down based on week to week how much time you spend on your Met role. So that's just the other thing I wanted to chip in there.
And I wanted to address a few things in the chat real quick, Andrew. As far as using other incentives, we are placing in the advisors' goals for the year that this is part of their goals for deliverables, is their advisor role with EPRI. So that's been measurable between them and their manager of what metrics they want to measure there. We had a question about what programs we subscribe to. Off the top of my head, Andrew, I'm going to say about 10 to 12 programs with 12 advisors and probably 6 sub-advisors on the sub-programs from the PDU is what we have right now. Would that be about right, you think, between generation and PDU?
It might be a little higher. I'm not entirely sure because I think we actually added a couple this year, so it might be up to around 15.
Yeah, that's probably right. And we don't include our nuclear in our program because our nuclear plant kind of runs their own thing. So they're a big chunk too, but they have their own program that they run out at the nuclear plant because they're nukes, so they don't want us part of their stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So we run it for corporate, and then our nuclear site has their own. And then we had a question about will we be at the Nuclear Power Council meetings in Nashville on the 13th? No, we will not. Joanna, if you want to talk to Andrew and I, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to spend some time in a meeting, walk you through the site, whatever you want, and give you any more information you need on what we've done at APS. But we've been really excited, and our executives are very pleased with the progress we've made in a very short period of time because we just relaunched in September. So here we are basically in our 4th month of relaunch, and the numbers are through the roof for engagement and awareness for EPRI. So we're very happy with where we're at so far, and we will continue to work on it. And it is absolutely part of Andrew and I's goals this year. Is this EPRI program is one of our main goals in our performance reviews for 2023.
Thank you very much, Andrew and Mark. And just to add on the nuclear MET, like you were explaining, Mark, many of our members that do have nuclear engagement would also have a nuclear MET, and those are usually separate, even though they do come together at times, depending on our member company and you know, how they work and their policies. But it's pretty much the same role, just that nuclear at EPRI has tended to do things their way, and it's such a huge sector and so international that they really do have a very good, actually, a very good engagement, very strong. And if anything, we're trying to be as good as they are. So I can see that. Mark and Andrew, I love the term you use of being an ambassador for EPRI at APS. I think that's a very unique role to have, where you are engaged not just at the advisor and engineers levels, making sure that the engagement is there and that APS is getting its value, but also it is a role where, as an ambassador, you do go up to the executive levels and demonstrate the work that you're doing and demonstrating the value of EPRI engagement to be able to reach those very high-level strategic objectives. So thank you very much for the work that you do. We really appreciate it. Do we have any more questions here? Let's see.
Thank you all for the opportunity and for listening today and allowing us to share what we're doing. And feel free to add more questions to the chat or reach out to us directly. We're here to help out. We're more than happy to lend a little bit of what we do, whether it be beneficial or not, to anybody who wants to listen. So we're happy to help out.
Wonderful. And that's what the MET community is there for you to be able to pick up the phone or chat with your MET peers. So thank you. Are there any other questions on chat, or feel free to get off mute if you'd like and ask a question, another question of Andrew and Mark? All right. Well, feel free to enter more messages on the chat feature if you think of something. We're actually 5 minutes fast, so we have been rushing down these stairs, and I thought we might fall behind. If Brita is available, let me see if I can take the role back here and move forward.
Perfect. I'm here.
Brita, you're there. So thank you so much, Brita. Brita is the Director of Transportation at EPRI, and she's going to tell us about a very, very big key project that she is deploying, EVs to Scale 2030. And Brita, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll easily use up those extra 5 minutes, but I don't think that's what you were saying to me. I'm really happy to be talking to you guys about this program. Just by way of introduction, let me just tell you what my background is. I just joined EPRI 6.5 months ago now. I came out of automotive. Last 20 years, I spent at General Motors working on their advanced vehicle programs, including the battery vehicles, the Volt and the Bolt and the Spark and so on. But my job was very outward facing. So I worked very heavily over those last 20 years with the utility sector. I've known a lot of you guys. I've known many of your utilities. Understanding what's the role of utilities, how much charging infrastructure, where do we need it, how do you get to large scale electric vehicle commercialization, both cars all the way up to trucks, what policies, what regulatory environment, how do you get this job done? And so it's a perfect role for me here to jump in here, and we've created a program. It's a 3-year supplemental. It's super important because over those last 12 years in particular, since the EVs really hit the market, the new generation of electric vehicles, there are increasing signs already that the utility industry is way behind in actually meeting the load of the vehicles that are coming. We can talk about the heavy duty trucks and the medium duty trucks because those are really hyper local loads on the grid. But even the light duty vehicle sector, with just millions and millions of electric vehicles on the road in the next 6 years. And then you think about hotspots with like Hertz and Enterprise, where they've got thousands of electric vehicles. And I'm sure you guys keep up with all the announcements, but thousands of electric vehicles parked in an airport where the rental agencies are providing these cars to consumers. So add up all this stuff, and we understand that the moment right now is for EPRI to help really a nation building project to determine what has to happen between today and the next 7 years to 2030 to get the grid ready to support the fleet operators, consumers, and other key stakeholders out there like vehicle manufacturers to make sure that we aren't the sector that's not getting the job done. So that's what this is. The initiative is called EVs to Scale 2030. Let me start with the first slide in here if Mariangelis or Sri, thank you very much. The background is government, industry, and fleets are increasingly aligning around 2030 objectives, and they're very aggressive, more aggressive than I ever would have thought possible in such a short amount of time. We are in a different place than we were 2 years ago, and I've got many pages of evidence of where the investments are going, how large the investments are, what the automakers are doing today to actually attack the problems of supply chain and raw material procurement and so on for the next 7 years to get to these numbers. That all is happening. And so again, all eyes are kind of turning to the sort of the utility industry. What's happening on our side of the equation now? The pace, second bullet, the pace of needed year-over-year action and investment to prepare the charging sites and the grid to accommodate all these different loads from light-duty vehicles all the way up to heavy-duty trucking fleets is really not clear. It's not clear to utilities because the fleets have really not been transparent, and this consolidation, this alignment of where folks are really going to go out and how fast these vehicles can enter the market, it's just not been very transparent. But the regulators have definitely not understood what's coming at them. Even I'm speaking of the California regulators who are doing, obviously, as we all know, quite a bit over there. They are also in a little bit of trouble right now. And Daimler Trucks wrote a really great letter to the CEC in California here just a month or so ago that really captures what the fleets are feeling and what the manufacturers of trucks, for example, are feeling. In this case, Daimler Trucks is saying, I've got fleets canceling electric truck orders because the fleets are reaching out to local utilities and the utilities are saying, hey, come back in 2 to 4 years. And the trucks are supposed to show up in 6 to 9 months. So we've got this mismatch, and this is where nation building happens. We've got to bring the fleet sector, the manufacturers of cars and trucks, and the utility sector together as sort of the 3 major stakeholders that will in the end be held accountable for whether the transition happens or it doesn't happen. And that's where I get a little concerned about how we need to have a program in place right now. Fourth bullet there, consumers and fleet operators are increasingly looking to the utility industry with regulatory support to scale up the efforts to get to scale. They can talk to charge point operators here in the near term, but at the end of the day, considerations of grid resilience, widespread power outage, what happens during evacuations, how are we going to get to these big point loads like the 13 megawatt downtown San Francisco load we're all hearing about, and the 50 megawatt over in Memphis, Tennessee. These loads, everyone knows the stories. You probably have your own stories about just crazy loads that are being, being identified by some of the fleet operators, for example, and they're expecting them in 6 or 9 months, and that's not how this industry today works. And so all of those issues of what do we have to solve to get to scale, so the utility industry has the tools it needs to actually redefine how you get to scale. That needs to happen with, at the end of the road, some regulatory support for it, and maybe a new, and probably a very new conversation across the regulatory landscape and policy. Last bullet down there, the transition is unprecedented. This quick a transition over such a short period of time is really unprecedented. It's very complex. If we had 30 years to do this and meet these loads, none of us would really be sitting here. We wouldn't be worried about it, but we don't. A lot of these peak loads are showing up across the service, across the utility service territories in like 2024, 2025, right when some of the trucking mandates are now showing up. So the timelines are coming nearer and nearer to us, and we need more lead time. We need more ability to act faster and invest ahead of these loads. So it's going to require this extraordinary collaboration and partnering across these three. And in my mind, it comes really down to three major stakeholder groups. There are others, but three major stakeholder groups. We have to redesign some processes. There are going to be some tools that we need to have newly developed. I can talk a little bit about that too. And we've got to increase standardization and simplify what's out there today. We've got a real patchwork of stuff that built up over 12 years, and it's pretty sloppy, pretty messy. And it's leading us to issues like reliability problems with public infrastructure, public charging infrastructure in the field. And we've got to address that because, again, processes weren't designed for, a million points of power and load coming onto the grid. We know what to do with a data center, even if it's 100 megawatts. We know how to plan for that and build it over time. But these point loads are really becoming complex, and the nature, the variability across the stakeholders trying to put in charging stations, and fleet operators trying to put in depot charging are becoming really complicated fast. And then thirdly, at the end of the day, we've got to reevaluate the regulatory environment that doesn't really allow utilities to invest ahead of load. We got to figure out what's enough confidence. And so this program will be working on driving confidence directly from the voice of the fleet operators and the manufacturers, because we know that's got to back up what the utilities are trying to do. But so it's a lot database. It's very data-based, but we also have to make sure that we have the data, we understand the answers, and we can, with the support of the other two stakeholder groups, really drive this new conversation and possibly work with the federal government about what can ratepayers pay of this challenge, and in fact, what might have to be borne by maybe more directed investment to the utility industry from the federal government. I think that at the end of the day, that might be a real question left on the table. If we can just go to the next slide, please. Let me just show you in a nutshell what it is. Just the first sentence up there, EVs to Scale is a 3-year commitment focused on leveraging the scale of the utility industry to help galvanize not only the utility industry, but also align these other critical market stakeholders towards, let's put a stake in the ground. Let's really look at 2030, where again, I have a lot of evidence-based slides on where are the commitments, where's the money going? Why do we believe that 2030 is really an aligning point for all of these stakeholders, and why the loads are just coming at us very, very fast. 3 barriers, if I had to really boil this down to 4 things that we have got to start getting right out there, or we'll never get to scale. We've got to deal with the problem of charging availability. Right today, it's been on the pace of funders like state governments and federal government. This chasing after grants for the public sector is just problematic because charging isn't where it needs to be everywhere. We need to address that issue. Charging reliability, it's just, if anyone here is an EV driver, as I have been for the last 12 years, the reliability of charging out there is just atrocious. It will never pass the test of consumers who, unlike me, are not as we'll do whatever it. Some of us will do whatever it takes, and it's okay. We'll be testers in this market transition. Real consumers aren't going to be willing to put up with chargers that don't work, that aren't maintained, and so on. 4th one are grid interconnections. They can't take 4 years or 2 years. It probably can't even take a year and a half. We've got to figure out what it means to get more information into the hands of utilities with much more lead time, so that we can sort of queue up projects much faster than we're doing today. We want to look at that. And then overall grid readiness, the ability to invest ahead of these loads as we collect the data from fleet operators and other big charging point operators like Tesla and, Circle K has big ambitions, Shell, BP, and others. What do those loads really look like? And what does the grid have to be able to do? Not just by 2030, but 2029, 2028, 2025. Bring it back to today. Are we already out of the lead times to accommodate the vehicles that are going to hit the streets here in 2024 and 25? Next slide. This is really the heart of the program here. I'm not going to go into it. I don't have time today, but just know it's a 3-pillared strategy reflecting the kind of things I just identified in sort of the background of why we are where we are and what has to change, where we have to really help each other. Like I said, I'm bringing in the fleet industry and the automakers and the truck makers because their voices are becoming painfully strong right now, but they're not organized in a way to really be helpful. They're signing unique NDAs with one utility at a time. We're signing NDAs with these fleet operators now to get the data into EPRI so that we can then inform the utility industry much more broadly about the longer lead time plans that are coming so that the utility industry can act faster. So 3 pillars: coalitions, roadmaps, framing up the problem, structural system reforms, the processes that don't work today. And then there are some tools we have to develop. I've got a really cool tool called GridFast that's in this program. We've been thinking about this tool at EPRI for a couple of years. It is now time to make it real. And so I don't have time again to talk about it here, but it could offer unprecedented access. If we have our way and we get all the way through all these data requests and NDAs, which look super positive right now, it'll be unprecedented access to 5 to 10 year plans from every fleet operator and charge point operator out there for the next, like I said, the next 5 to 10 years. There's a regulatory task force that undergirds a lot of what's happening here because that conversation has to change. Then there are components of equity and workforce. We don't have the workforce in place at the utilities to accommodate all these service requests that are coming in even today. And we're not even really at sort of the hockey stick part of these curves yet of adoption. So we're going to be looking at that too. Let me just toss a little bit more information out of you. And I'm happy to do presentations with any of your utilities. I've been making my way through some of the utilities right now. But on the next slide, let's see what I've got on the next one.
Rita, we
yes.
have a question for you that maybe you could address now.
Yeah.
The question is, do you consider to spread the load spatially and temporally by using grid-connected vehicles, especially for freight? And are there plans to extend these existing grids?
Okay, okay, that sounded like a really complicated question. Let me split it apart. The one question about, are we going to treat these loads as spatial? Absolutely. What we're doing with the NDAs and the data asks right now, Daimler Truck, PACCAR, Volvo, and FedEx as the first fleet in the door, we are working with them now on identifying, they've got data on a street address level, right? But everybody's worried about confidentiality and security. We are working with them to understand and negotiate basically with them. We need basically street level data, but we will aggregate to a hex 8 level. If anyone's familiar with what this new GIS architecture looks like these days, it gives you basically a 0.25 mile radius of accuracy of where the fleets are going to be. For example, where charging is expected to be. And a 0.25 mile radius is probably good enough to tell you which 1 or 2 feeders are we talking about. So the answer is we are driving for data that would allow utilities to understand on a feeder level, where do we think the hotspots are coming next year, the year after, the year after. So that's the spatial, the geospatial, geolocation part of it. Was there another question there that I didn't quite answer there with that question?
I think that you've answered most of it. It also asked, are there plans to extend these existing grids?
What does that mean, to extend the existing grids? I mean, in that 50 state, let me just answer it this way. In purple right there, the 50 state roadmap to 2030, we are starting out with data from folks that have loads coming, right? The whole community of announcements out there, the press releases, when are those loads really coming? And where geographically in the United States? So when, where, and how big are those loads? Once you have the loads and where they are, we will then determine what are the grid impacts. Are we talking transmission? Are we talking substation? Are we talking feeder level? What is the nature of those grid impacts? What are the lead times required? Given the nature of those upgrades required, are those 2-year lead times, 6-month lead times? Even transformers these days, right? Some of the transformers have 3-year lead times at this point. So we've got some real challenges here on lead time. What's the workforce needed to achieve that kind of work in time to meet the, for the utility industry to meet the loads where they're going to be. And then at the end of the day, what are all the costs? What are the real true costs? Everyone talks about the charging stations themselves. That is just a minor piece of the big puzzle. We'll be looking at the cost of doing this work so that we can understand what is the impact on ratepayers. And if that is just can't be borne by ratepayers, we need to have a conversation with the Joint Office and the DOE. Hopefully that answers that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Could I
All right,
quickly go
I'll
to the
move
next
over
couple
to the
slides?
next slide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I am so happy to go in more detail on this. Let me just, titillate a little bit more with some of the stuff that we're doing, because again, there is no one organization in the country that can do this. I have assembled a team here. It's just crazy talented team to do this very special, specific, targeted initiative to get at the barriers to scale in the marketplace. And it's going to require that coordination that I keep talking about. The players have to start operating together. Utility industry and the trade associations. I'm working every week with EEI and ATE. Phil Jones, maybe many of you know him too. This is a collaborative effort. EPRI can't do everything, but we have partners that can. And so across the board, these kind of stakeholders are part of this effort. The auto trucking industry, fleet and consumer organizations, the NGO and standards organizations, because we are going to have to overhaul some of the standards, because it's just it's kind of a mess out there with the standards. It doesn't solve all of the reliability problems, but if it solves even 5% of the problems, it's another 5% off the table. And right now, that's what we're dealing with, a bunch of 5% and 10%. And then government. Let me just save that for a second. Let me show you on the next slide. I think it's my advisory board. Yeah. So here's the advisory board for this initiative. It's made up of utility advisors. So you can see Brett Carter from Excel is the chair of this initiative. We haven't even had our first meeting. You guys are not behind the curve. This is the time to actually join this program. Brett Carter is the chair of this initiative at Excel. You know a lot of the amazing things that Excel has been doing. Patty Poppy has requested that she be the co-chair on this initiative. Patty and I go way back to General Motors days. Southern Company is on the board, Seattle City Light, LCRA, and Ameren. There are some other ones that I want to go continue talking to. Their hands were up in the air a year ago before I got here. I need to go back and talk to them. But on the external advisors, this is really important here. It's important, and the Department of Energy and the Joint Office already know what we're doing. I've been keeping them abreast and informed of just the level of ambition of this project and why this is important. NEVI is wonderful. They're trying to do all the right things, but they don't have the leverage of industry like we do. We actually could make some things happen. I'm very confident we can make things happen here. So DOE and Joint Office will be on the advisory board. Kellen is there with the EI, Phil Jones, ATE. AAI, that's the Auto Alliance. I've known them for a long time too. They want to be in this project. They want to know how they can help, what voice they can lend to what you guys are trying to achieve. And then we will select a manufacturer from all of those that keep raising their hands. We need to pick somebody to sit on the board. We kind of have a lot of offers right now. Same thing with the fleet operators. A lot of folks want to be on board to help shape this. So I just wanted to give you a sense of how collaborative and how multi-sectoral this group is and what's going to happen here. So this is not just the utility industry on its own trying to figure this stuff out. This is, let's get all our brains together and figure out how three major sectors and the government really work together and try to, move some problems to the side. And then I think I only want to show one more slide. Yeah, I think we can do it with one more slide. I just created this slide because I wanted to make sure that utilities understand. Okay, could I even articulate what's the value you get in this program? So number one, I would say it's access to an executive advisory board that I just showed you that includes federal agencies that are responsible for this EV transition. The Auto Alliance and all the manufacturers, virtually every one of them is going to want to participate and talk to you guys. And then the fleet operator sector, who's actually said, because they're so kind of frustrated or nervous, maybe, let's just say nervous about their ability to execute and move vehicles into the electric vehicles into the market, they are very open to data sharing with us on behalf of the industry to figure out how do we move lead time, transparency, how do we make more transparent what's happening? Second, unprecedented access to this data and visibility into the fleet electrification plans and charging infrastructure loads. Again, I already mentioned, we know it matters that we get this down to the feeder level. It doesn't help me to tell you what the loads are in Arkansas or in Illinois. We've got to be able to do better than that. And we are pressuring folks. If you have a problem, Daimler, Volvo, Packard, you need to start telling us, you need to share that data with us that allows a utility to act and inform regulators on a new level, not just sort of hand waving how big the loads are going to be in 2040. Third, we know that we you're going to have access to organized regulatory and policy support from these vehicle manufacturers and fleet operators. Through letters of support is part of the strategy here. Even supportive testimony. I've heard Amazon and Penske have both told me, if you're doing regulatory, if you're trying to build data and inform regulatory processes, we would be there. If you can prioritize for us where we need to be, what helps move the needle, we would be there for utilities. So we want to leverage this ability. EPRI can't lobby or get in front of the regulators, but we can sure do all of the homework to help get this job done. And then fourth and finally, just sharing the costs and risks of developing the processes and tools that I think there's just no question we don't have the tools and processes in place to get to scale. And so by sharing the costs and risks across a body of utilities, this is a great way to make that happen. And I think I'm just going to pause there. There are other slides in the deck that I think Mariangelis can send around afterwards about, what are the first 6 months look like on this program? What are our priorities and so on? Here's success. It looks like a list of deliverables. You can look at that too. Next one is the 6 month. There you go.
Very good. So we're right on time right now, but if anyone has a question on the chat, please send it over. It would probably take another minute. Or feel free to enter those questions as we move along. Brita, thank you very much. Really appreciate this very brief presentation for a project that is very overarching and very deep in the work that we would do there. So this is really a big heads up to our MECs to inform them that we have a lot of new supplemental projects coming up in 2023. EVs to scale is something that's really being deployed quickly, with several of our members joining already. So if this is a project that interests your utility, please feel free to mention it to those in the electric transportation area, electrification, etc. And Brita will be there to answer your questions and to offer more tailored presentations for each of you. I'm just going to highlight a couple more projects, even though we have tens of new supplemental projects through each year and throughout the year. Here's one I would like to give you a little heads up on. It's a physical security supplemental project for 2023. Physical security actually is in program 37. EPRI has been working on physical security for a very long time. So all of that knowledge is actually going to be put together in a supplemental project for those interested, especially with the events that have occurred recently, and expecting that NERC is going to come down on it too, also pretty soon. So stay tuned. There's going to be an SPN, an overview description for physical security coming up soon. If you are interested in knowing more about this project in the next few days, please get in touch with your strategic account executive, and they'll put you in touch with a transmission and substation technical advisor as well, and we can also have our technical staff present that for you. Another one that I would like to highlight is the Inflation Reduction Act interest group. So this is an interest group that is actually carried out by our technology innovation area. So it is complimentary for all of our members. There is so much going on in terms of the $650 billion or so in federal monies that includes IRA and the BIL and so on and so forth. How is it that we participate in this game changer? So if you are interested, again, in having your company join in this interest group, you'll get copies of these slides. Please feel free again to forward this over to your folks from your government relations side of things, as well as to all of your technical folks who, of course, would be interested in the different areas that the IRA supports to help us reach our clean energy goals especially. So with that, then I would like to move forward and get into something a little bit more technical here for the EPRI website. And Elizabeth, would you like to tell the Mets a little bit about EPRI.com and these lists? Thank you.
Sure, Marianne, just thanks. I'm excited about this update because I know it's been a long time coming. We finally have the MET list posted on the web, so you can all see all the different METs at all the different utilities that support EPRI. And how do you find this? You have to go, it's not on Med Central, it's on EPRI.com. So under the About tab, then you select People, and then you can find the Committees tab, and then you would put in the MET committee is what you would search for. So, you know, I get this question a lot, so I'm happy that it's finally on the web. Now you'd think that it might be under this METs tab here, but that is not where you find this information. And we are actually going to be removing that MET tab there that you can see with the X through it. That was meant to just show the MET at your particular utility. And we're going to merge that information with, under my support team. So you'll still find your MET there. Obviously, you all know who that is since you're the MET community, but for others who aren't part of the MET community, and then the committees tab here is where you will find the MET list. So quick update on that. And thanks everybody for your patience while we sorted that out behind the scenes. Thanks, Marianne.
Thank you very much, Liz. And we all know that it's winter time and advisory and council meetings are coming up. So Shri is going to give you a reminder, an overview of the places that many of your advisors need to be at all over the country. So Shri, tell us about it.
Hello again, everyone. So today was the first of our 4 webcasts for the year. And so we have dates for the upcoming quarterly webcast, which is hosted by one of our regional managers. Thank you, Maria Angelis, for hosting it today. And we have our central team manager, Jerry Kashev, hosting it next time in April. We also have our summer TMC meeting, which will be in person this year in August in the Pacific Northwest. And you will soon receive an invitation from us with hotel registration information and location information. And we have our advisories happening very soon, and much like what Andrew and Mark addressed earlier. We have found our advisories to be very engaging with our METs, and you have that information here across all our sectors. We also have some information here on task force, and these slides are going to be made available to you via email and on Met Central, so you can share this information with your team. And this particular slide is more comprehensive of what meetings are in person, what happens hybrid, and what is entirely virtual. We have some exciting other events happening at every April, the Climate Research Seminar and the Electrification Conference next year. And with that, we are opening up for more question and answers and discussions.
Thank you very much, Shri. Wow, we really did go through that very fast. But the good thing is that you'll have these slides, and hopefully these slides will really help you look at all of these meetings that are happening, at least in the first half of 2023. If you have any questions, if you know that your advisors might not have received invitations to some of these where you know they probably should be there, again, please feel free to use those slides to inform them about the generation sector meetings, the PDU meetings, depending on which of the PDU areas where the transmission, distribution, the information communications, cybersecurity, as well as the electrification and sustainability. They're all in different areas, so we will have to pay good attention to make sure that the advisors know where they need to be, and also if it is virtual or if it is in person. And as Shri mentioned, we are all looking forward to having the MET community come together in August in the Pacific Northwest and have this sort of meeting all together. So now what I would like to do is open it for the last 5 minutes and see if any of you have any questions, suggestions. Please feel free to put that on the rack. Let me see, on the chat. There is a question here. Can you please remove the reference? Okay, all right. Okay. The RAC meeting, I think, also was listed there. Was it, Shri?
Yes, it is, and I will bring
Okay.
that up.
The Research Advisory Committee. Okay, so,
We have it here.
okay, all right. So we can move on. Shri, let's see. One question so that we have is, if you all have questions, ideas for the next second quarter TMC meeting, which will be virtual, please send us any ideas for topics that you would be interested in. Shri also showed there the different dates for the quarterly TMC meetings. And also, if you have any suggestions for topics at the summer meeting for the TMC, that would be, I think you just, okay, so these are the quarterly meetings that you're seeing there. The next one has to do with ensuring technology transfer. So if you have any ideas or you would like to present, please get together with Shri or Elizabeth Griffiths or myself. Jerry Iwachu is going to be moderating that session, so let us know. All right, so let's see. No other chat questions on chat? So that means that we will be returning 4 minutes back to you. Thank you very much for joining us today on this first quarter TMC meeting, and we look forward to hearing all of your comments in the meantime before the second quarter meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Have a great rest of the day.